Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea and Stories. I have iced tea today. It's just that hot. Oh, and I hope you have your favorite beverage too. While people come into the room, give people a few minutes, I'm going to give a little bit of a summary of what happened in the first part of the story. The story is called The Children of Starlights Last Gleaming. Starlights Last Gleaming was a housing project, a very special housing project for women who were abandoned along with their children. Starlight Last Gleaming happened somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s. Now, everything went great for about 10 years. And about 10, 15 years, everything went great. And then families started disappearing. Poof, they couldn't find them. Their family members would report them missing, and they would go to their houses for a wellness check, and there would just be everything in order and neat in their houses. But those who dwelled in the houses would be gone. Now, when the last two families came up missing, the police finally decided to step in. And when they stepped in, they went into the houses again. Nothing. They searched the woods in back of the housing project, which was near Wissahickon Drive. And they found 6 children, all huddled together, holding hands. The children were 5 and 6 years old, and they were in shock, holding on to each other for dear life and really frightened. The story picks up from the first 2 of the group to find each other again, and that was Skylark and Gillian. What you're going to find out about them is that Gillian and Skylark, they don't feel as though it's strange for them to see each other again. In fact, holding on to one another again makes them feel safe. Chapter 2 of The Children of Starlight's Last Gleaming Awaken. Gillian waited quietly, sitting on the library's windowsill. Bina was the first to notice him. "Your boyfriend's here, Skylark," Bina teased. "He's not my boyfriend, but I'm glad he's here." Skylark smiled, because she really was glad to see Gillian. As she packed up her things, she looked over, and he was gazing into the sky, thinking. Bina shook her head disapprovingly. "Look at him. He must be daydreaming," she fussed. "Has he always stared like that?" Skylark answered matter-of-factly, "Yes, always. It's a sign of his brilliant mind." Waving goodnight to her colleagues, Sky walked out of the door into the humid midsummer evening. Gillian didn't say hello to her at first. At first, he just looked at her and held out his hand. They talked about what happened to each of them since they last saw one another. Gillian's mother had had no other relatives than he and his siblings, so he was adopted by strangers. Mr. and Mrs. Smith were good people, kind and loving, and they never made him talk about what happened. "You had grown up an only child," doted on by both of them. Skylark's mother had been a child in a family of 6, but it was one of her mother's cousins who adopted her. Her cousins never let her forget she was adopted. When their mother wasn't around, they would call her Weirdo, a foundling. Why did they do that? It always made her sad to think about it. Basically because they felt like I was taking away something from them. It seems I came with money. Mama had money in her account when she went missing. That made it all the worse. Cousin Dot always told them that she didn't have to worry about the things I needed. Dot said all the worries came from them. I took care of my cousin until she died. They all still hate me for it. They just wanted to put her in some nursing home. I couldn't have that. As they walked the 10 miles, the 10 blocks to Broad Street, they held hands instinctively. Neither of them questioned why they did this. They just did it like little children do when they're close. The Smiths gave me the option of keeping my original family name or taking theirs. I became Smith because I didn't want to remember my mother. Or at least I didn't until I saw you. Tears stung his eyes and Gillian wiped them with the back of his sleeve. I can actually remember my mother and brothers. It's strange. I know what you mean. I hadn't thought about my sister or Mom, but when I saw you today, it all came flooding back. I started to recall birthday parties, getting my hair done, selling boats in the bathtub. I remembered trying to remember them right after everything, but I couldn't. What's happening to us? The old friends walked a couple of blocks in silence. Neither really being able to say anything. All they knew is that being close made them feel all right. They couldn't even say that to one another. When they reached the subway, Skylark grasped his hand tightly. Please tell me I'm not dreaming. Please tell me that you're really here, Gillian, she pleaded as her eyes teared up. If it is, Skylark, we're having the same dream. Don't cry. Don't cry, sweet pea. No one had called her that for years. It was her mother's nickname for her. Unable to leave each other, they rode the sub to Broad and Olney, then took the bus to her house. It was a modest 3-bedroom with a huge kitchen and a tiny dining room. Gillian admitted that he had been tested and was on the autism spectrum. Somehow telling her didn't embarrass him like it had with everyone else. She told him that only meant that he was a genius, and he never felt so loved. Talking well into the early hours, Skylark told him that she thought she knew where their other companions were. Epic, who had been Gillian's best friend and worked for the library too. He ran a youth artist and rendering program at the main branch. Maybe we should look him up tomorrow. Maybe we should try to find everyone. Maybe they'll find us. We have to find each other first, remember? Yeah, I remember. He spent the night in her guest room. Neither had slept that well before in their whole lives. They felt safe with one another, something that neither had felt for a long, long time. So, what do you think? What do you think happened to those children? What do you think happened to their families? The story goes on. Now, what I will say is I want to thank everyone who replied. I actually posted the text of this story online, and I posted this chapter too, so that you can keep up with the story. I really, really, really would appreciate any feedback that you give me on the story. And yes, I know there's typos. There's going to be a lot of typos. because you are my first editors. Yay! This mini novelette is going to be 12 parts. So, for the next 10 TN stories, you'll get a chance to hear the story. Oh, but you're not going to hear the story. Actually, it's the next 13, because the next TN story, which is tomorrow, I'm actually going to read you something historical about the 4th of July and Frederick Douglass. Because I really do believe that stories are there to teach us. We need to learn. All of us. I want to thank all of you guys for all your support for the tea and stories and for my jewelry business. Yes. I wore this set yesterday too because it's my favorite. I'll wear something new tomorrow, I promise. But I just wanted to put it on today. Please, please, please join me again for tea and stories. If there is a type of story that you would like me to tell, please let me know. This is an adult storytelling session, so I will be telling some adult stories coming up soon. What does that mean? You'll see. But until then, I want to thank you all for joining me for Tea and Stories. Please check out my jewelry. If you've missed any part of this, you can... Hi, Tamara! Oh, so good to see you. If you missed any part of Tea and Stories, you can always watch the replay. It'll show right after this. And you can always read the story too. I'll make sure that I post both. I love you very much. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye. Oh, and if you see my jewelry posted, which I'll be posting right after this, if there's anything that you like, please just inbox me, and I'll do my best to make sure that you get some bling to help out your thing too. Take good care. Bye-bye.